making that transition to a professional. You're thrown into the lion's den, you're in there with the big cats, and they come to play. I grew up splitting my time between Bethesda, Maryland, and Dewey Beach, Delaware. Dewey Beach, Delaware is the East Coast skimboarding capital. You get these beautiful 3-4 foot barreling liners. Then the skim community aspect of it is really something super beautiful. We were given the opportunity to do a skimboarding showcase at the Supergirl Pro in Oceanside, California. It was actually the first time that skimboarding has ever been featured at a WSL event. By far one of the most enriching experiences of my life. I also would love to see skimboarding get into the Olympics. I think next on the docket is to be recognized by the ISA. I know for Skim USA at least that is the goal. Thank you to all my sponsors, Zap and Alley-Oop and Eel Snot and Marlaroo bags, to my family as well. I definitely wouldn't be here without them.
Hi everyone, my name is Trey Lee here with the Skim Steezy Podcast, and we have a very special guest today. We have Sydney Pizza, who turned professional last year, has just been all around an inspiration and a encouraging light to others within this community. And I'm so grateful to have you on the podcast. Welcome, Sydney.
Oh, thank you so much. I am super pumped to be here and excited to get this opportunity to share a little bit more and talk to some new people.
Yeah, totally. So rad. So, you're in university right now. You're in your dorm. You were kind of having some technical difficulties for the audience a little bit before this. So, how's that going?
It's going good. I'm a senior at the University of Delaware, and I'm about to finish up and graduate in 3 years. So I'm ready to be done and get out and go skim.
Oh, so sick. So is that the plan after that? Is like pretty much just university? Like, or are you planning on using your degree at all in conjunction with skimming? Or
Yeah, actually, that's pretty much the plan. I'm gonna be a business management graduate at the business school here, and I do want to use that in conjunction. I run skim camps in Delaware with Jason Wilson for Alley Oop, and it's going super well, and it's a really good application of my degree. And I also want to take an entrepreneurial aspect and angle with it, and see where that takes me as well in the skim world.
so cool, yeah. And I think we discussed this a little bit before. And so you have multiple sponsors. So you already mentioned Alley-Oop Skim, but other notable ones are Zap Skim Boards and Eel Snot. So um, in general, how have these like sponsorships impacted your career in skimboarding?
Um, I would say just about on every level. Every
Mhm.
one of my sponsors has been a huge part of helping getting me to where I am today, whether that's been, product support or, just like a family aspect to it, just having people that I can go to and talk to about different things and just support me in every which way. And I really would not be where I am without them, especially people like Jason Wilson, who are a part of not only Alley Oop, but Zap, and who have just really helped me become the person I am today. So,
So cool, yeah. Um, so tell us a little bit for people who may not be familiar with you. Um, Tell us about your skimboarding journey. How did you get into it, and sort of leading us up till today. Like, what did the people need to know about you?
so I started skimming when I was 6 in Dewey Beach, Delaware, with Jason Wilson and other notable Zap team riders like the McCoy brothers and like old school legends like Joey Vavala. And I grew up watching them on the beach, and just for me, it was honestly love at first sight with skimming. And I started at a young age, took it from there, started competing at 8 in Delaware, and then made a decision that I wanted to, kind of see where that took me, and started traveling for it and just kept going. And it's, been 14 years, almost 15, and I'm more in love with it than ever.
Oh, that's so cool. So what in those 4 years has changed? Like you've kind of been around for a while now, kind of molded by this community from an early age. So what kind of things have you noticed within this the skim scene in regards to not only like the sport and like the technique, but also like the community?
I think the most notable thing is, especially in the last, I would say now 11 years, the growth and the change for the women in the sport. When I started skimming, fun fact, there was so few girls my age that I had to skim in the mini division with the boys, with like good friends of mine now, like Aiden Stevenson and Brady Green, Alex Shekels, all those guys. We used to have to skim against each other, and then from there it kind of developed into, okay, I was now a little bit older, like 10-ish, so I could skim with girls who were 14 and 15. Back in the day, there was two divisions. It was 14 and younger and 15 and up. And no pro women when I first started. So, um,
Wow.
yeah, in 2013, there was the first professional women's division at the Boardwalk Blow Up in, I want to say Melbourne, Florida. And notable people such as Casey Kiernan and Sam Victor and all those legends were in that contest. And so watching it go from that, over 10 years ago to now, we have four divisions plus pro women for the girls. And this year in Delaware at the ZAP Pro Am World Championships, there was over 40 female amateur and professional competitors. So making history like that is just the coolest thing to see.
Yeah, that is so cool. And and so, what do you think has been part of this upsurgence of women within the sport?
I honestly think doing things like skim camp and obviously and like lessons and just all of us being really involved like we are now, and obviously social media has had a huge helping hand in that. But at least us in Delaware, we've run skim camp, and I think having females like, leading that and on the forefront of that, and just being super available for all these little girls and someone who they can see like, hey, it's cool, it's okay if you fall in front of the guys and don't be embarrassed and just keep pushing and on your own thing and you'll be just fine. And the guys are really cool about it too. Like all of my friends who work at Alley Oop with me, like they love, like they're gonna hate me for saying this, but they love the little girls. Like they love our little campers that are chicks. They're so supportive and they're right in there with them, helping them, and it's the coolest thing to see.
That is so cool. Yeah, and um, I'm just wondering, like, how do you strike a balance between, the coaching aspect of your skimboarding world, and then also like the competitive aspect, and is there any sort of interplay there, between those, and yeah, just talk about that dynamic.
Yeah, 100%. It's a really interesting dynamic, but funny enough, they both kind of feed into each other. And like as a now professional athlete, we all have those days where you just, you're struggling to find some motivation and some drive sometimes, and getting to coach these little kids and seeing like the inspiration that they get from you, whether they say it or not. That a lot of times, especially this summer, as we all got super busy, was just like a big part of that for me. It was just like remembering like these little kids are falling in love with the sport like I did, and like just to keep on like pushing through just like they do when they fall, like, and we get them to get back up and keep going. We got to do the same thing. And also I would say like having a good support system. I'm super fortunate and blessed to be on like some great teams and have great people that I can lean on to support me and help me, and also a great family who is just like super supportive and always there to give me guidance, and a great boyfriend as well who also keeps me on the right path a lot more times than I would like to admit. So
So cool. Yeah, you mentioned so much there. I think I want to dive into a little bit, a couple things, and the first thing is a little bit about your family. So if people don't know, your mother is Wendy Caputo, right?
yeah.
And tell us a little bit about her role, how that's influenced you, and any sort of teamwork that you guys do to help from the back end of skimboarding.
Yeah, of course. So for anybody who doesn't know, my mom is the wonderful Wendy Caputo. She is a Maryland director for Skim USA. And for those who don't know, it's a nonprofit East Coast organization for the world of skimboarding. It's a very amateur-based organization just focused on the growth and development of the sport, kind of like the minor leagues and the UST, the professional tour is the major league. So they get all these groms ready to, get into the real stuff and really get ready for it. Both of my parents actually, my stepdad is another Maryland director for Skim USA. They have been, I would say, leading the charge and kind of on the forefront of the change in the judging and just organizationally for Skim USA, working in conjunction with other directors, but really leading the change in the judging and kind of formalizing a lot of things that way. So the stuff like the new judging matrix that came out this year, they were a big part of writing that and putting that into effect, as well as live heats, getting that going for Skim USA, and a bunch of other stuff that is underway that is to be announced and coming out in the next year or two. So it's super cool to see that.
Okay, cool. And do you kind of like help her in that role, or does she kind of just open your eyes into what she does and lets you focus on, instructing and in your own development?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of all the above. Skim USA is a really cool organization because it is all volunteer based. So it's these people who just have a true love for skimming and want to help it and see it do better and grow, or just giving their time. So it allows for people like myself to also jump into that mix when I do have, those rare moments of free time to help out and see what I can offer up as help and guidance and a different perspective oftentimes is, someone who's competing and involved and has direct interaction with these little kids to, give some perspective for so like this year actually a couple of my skim campers, the younger little girls, they were going to compete, but they saw that the age divisions were different for the girls and for the boys, so they actually wrote a petition and long story short, got it signed, sent it off to my mom and the executive director Toby West of Skim USA, and got the age divisions to get changed. So here in the near future, we will be rolling out new age divisions that will match for the girls and boys, basically like for the groms. So more girls hopefully will be competing and less intimidated by that age gap, which was really cool. So being involved in stuff like that has really been just like another blessing in the world of skim because it's just like so cool to see so many different aspects of it and all the change that's happening.
Yeah, so cool. I remember, I think they announced that in Dewey at the Zap Pro-Am, those changes in the petition and everything like that. So it was really cool and inspiring to see that even, so young, these girls are just sort of, banding together and advocating for what the change that they want to see within the sport.
Oh yeah, these little girls are forced to be reckoned with, believe me. They're
Yeah,
they're
totally. Um, and so back to your coaching aspect of it, and when you're instructing, what are some of the most common mistakes that you see, and are things or skills or aspects of skimboarding that the your trainees struggle with?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it really kind of depends on the kid. Skimboarding in its nature is very individualized. So it kind of depends because a lot of our kids, have either been skimming for a long time and have experience with us, and we've kind of taught them from the ground up, or are coming in with some experience, have tried out some other things, and just, want a new taste of skim camp or a different aspect of teaching or a different way, kind of because we have a very structured process and we have different things that we do. That allow for certain aspects of skimming to grow and come together. We do stations, for example, and break down, frontside, backside, and tricks and speed. So it kind of depends on where that kid is coming from. If they have other experience, we kind of go in and adjust some of those little things and those basic techniques. And even like the kids who are just starting. So I would say that we really focus on making sure that the basics for every kid that comes to camp or we give a lesson to is sound and super solid. And from there, we build up, but we always emphasize. And like even when they get kind of bored and are like, oh, like can we move on? We're like, well, you really got to get it perfect, and we'll give examples of like the Valencia Bros or Lucas Fink or anybody like that, and like you see how they do XYZ when they turn on a wave. Well, it's because their basics are sound, and they can do it with their eyes closed, and so we really emphasize those basics and getting them just really like on that muscle memory type of thing.
And basics are including things like your drop, your foot positioning, like your rail control, things like that, or turning front side, back side. Is that considered basics?
Yeah, yeah, 100% that. Just exactly like you said, that foot placement, how their weight distribution, whether they lean more toe side or heel side, their drop, how spread apart their feet are, how bent their knees are. It's really funny because as I've, grown in teaching and leading, it's really interesting to see how much an effect like those little things like where your feet on the board matters so much more than I think than people realize. So like just yeah, those super basic little things that most people don't even think about. We really try to hammer in and make sure they are to the utmost perfect level that they can be.
Hmm. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, let's dive into the technical side of skimboarding. So what are some key techniques and tricks that you yourself have been working on lately?
So I this summer so my boyfriend came to live with me for the summer and compete on the Skim USA and UST tour as well. And he has helped me a lot because he's made me take a step back and kind of instead of just progressing and just keeping going and just moving forward, we've kind of also gone back to the basics a little bit and reinforced some things. So I've been working a lot on my speed um, and a lot more combos. I've also been working on perfecting my 540 shove it and other technical combos that I think will do very well and some aren't as common. And also like just the basics like a 360 out to backside wrap to three shove, just stuff like that, and having that on lock and being able to do that in any condition in any wave has been something we've been working on. So I would say those basics again, and just perfecting things that I've already been doing. So stuff like that.
Cool. Yeah, it's so interesting. The basics at every level seem to be something that writers are honing in on. I remember I had a discussion with Dane Cameron as well, and he was just saying, he's also working on, less, not necessarily focusing on tricks, but more wave writing, becoming a better, skimmer on the wave, and then throwing in the tricks. And, so it's interesting to see, like, just making sure it's solid foundation across the board works for all divisions, all genders, everyone really. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's really funny to see like just how much it all really matters, no matter exactly like you said, no matter what level you're at.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, last time we had a short little interview. It was at the 2022 OBX Skim Jam, and I think that was your debut event, or it was close to it as a professional. Right, it was your debut event as a professional, and so I'm wondering between now and then, what what's been your professional journey been like? What have been some of your accomplishments? What have been maybe some of your challenges in this division specifically?
Um,
Why?
that's a
What's
really
funny?
good question.
Okay, yeah.
It's it's been
It's
a
just a wild
journey.
ride. Yeah.
Oh yeah, in the last year and a half, it's been a lot of learning and a lot of realisticness. Like it's been really real and like seeing a different perspective because going from an amateur and making that transition to a professional it's a whole other ball game. You're thrown into the lion's den. You're in there with the big cats, and they come to play, and it's legit. I would say that there's been a lot more low points and learning than there have been high points so far. which has been a good thing. Um, it's I like one of the things that I love most about skimming is that like you're not gonna do it perfectly the first time. Like you have to work for it and want it for it to like really happen. Whether it's a trick or a wave, a certain type of wave, a liner, catching a sider. You have to work at it. You're not gonna get it the first time. And that has been really true in the professional realm. Um, so it's been a lot of learning, I would say. Just yeah, going from a top amateur to a professional has definitely been a different course. There's yeah, I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay, yeah, it's very interesting. This is something I talked with Chip about recently, but he was saying, he was describing his professional debut a little bit going into Oktoberfest this year and being encouraged by, Yahir and Gerardo to do it. And even for him, it was almost like, I won't spoil that whole conversation, but, he was just saying that even just stepping in onto the board, entering in the division, it was like a win for him. And now, everything else, like it's just continuous improvement, and it's looking forward to that progression that is sort of keeping him motivated. Is it's kind of similar for you?
Yeah, 100%. I would say the first couple of contests that I that I competed as a professional in were definitely like that. Like even just like you said, even just stepping on that board or being in a heat with these women that I've looked up to and have idolized since I started skimming was just the most unreal thing. And now it's kind of turned into like we were all friends and whatever and team riders, but now like stepping into that really like true group of friendship with these girls is been another aspect to it. And now I'm kind of more into the friendship rather than like the idol type of thing now. So
Yeah,
it's really cool. It's been a really cool thing to see. But yeah, it's it's a lot of that motivation and progression and just being hungry for the title and wanting to win. That's really like the true motivation is just wanting to just go out there and show that hard work can pay off and that like it's gonna happen. So
totally. I'm curious
yeah.
about the mentality aspect as well of competing against, your formal idols and now like friends and, that versus maybe someone, you don't know, at all. And how does that affect your mentality? Do you just kind of forget that, your friends and you're just like, right now we're going, head to head, or what goes in your mind, in those kind of heats?
Yeah. So I mean, it's it's an interesting thing to think about, right? I think a lot of us don't think about it in those moments, and we're
Mm.
definitely like chatty and giddy, and we'll chat it up and hang out before, and but when it's finals day and when we're in it and we want the money, we want that first place because it's just something we all want. We're definitely on our own paths and in our own worlds, and we for the most part kind of we say hey and good morning and we're friendly, but we limit interaction, I think, because we're all kind of getting ready and in that mindset. And I think whether I'm good friends like someone like Alex Yoakley or Casey, where like I've known these girls since I was a little kid, or if it's someone like Jacqueline Coder or Jordan Sataya, for example, people who I haven't seen in a long time or don't really know super super well yet. It's one and the same where we're in our own spaces getting ready, and it's all love. But when we step into that 10-minute heat, it's game on. It's every man for themselves or every woman for themselves in that case. So
Sure. Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. And so, I'm also curious just about, you know, in the world of professional sports, injuries can be a challenge. So, how do you prioritize safety while pushing the limits of your performance? And I noticed you wear like a knee brace as well, and um, I I wanted to know if that was, is that preventative? Is it restorative? And just tell us about just injury prevention in general.
Yeah. So in the world of skimming, it's a lot of before and after care, I would say, more so than anything. So talking about that knee brace, I want to say in March of 2021, I suffered a knee injury in a contest. I partially tore my MCL and did some damage to my ACL.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, and didn't really know it at the time. Just thought I pulled my quad and kind of kept going and skimmed the next day. And then I took a pretty hard fall and I couldn't really finish the heat. Like had to pull myself out of the heat and had to get helped off the beach. From that, it was a pretty interesting experience because I was told that if I kept skimming, that and didn't rehab and take care of my knee, that I did more damage, I wouldn't be able to skim again.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I had about 4 months, I would say, until from March until we got into June and July when contest season was in full swing. So I went to rehab and told my PT that that was the date and that was when it had to be ready by, and whatever I had to do to get it done, I would do. So I was in PT, I think 3 to 5 days a week, doing the workouts at home, just doing everything I could to get ready, and was ready in time, and put the knee brace on and got cleared, and just started from there. And it was really interesting because a knee injury is very mental at times. And it started, that knee brace started to become a safety net. So now I no longer skim with it, but learning how to fully trust my body and my capabilities, and not having to rely on a knee brace or like a cream or like Advil or anything to feel safe has been an interesting journey. But I would definitely say that before and after care, so stretching, ice baths, the compression boots, TENS machines, massage guns, all that stuff is so paramount to being just ready at all times and taking care of your body and making sure that your your body, mind, and soul are one, and that you're all connected and you're in tune with yourself.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, so interesting. And yeah, skimboarding, I just feel like it is a lot of that before and after care, like you're saying, and even myself too. I've noticed like I've always like stretched out really well before, but I even notice now just making sure to after every session, like stretching out after, especially like my hips. I went to PT for a while, like last year, and it was just like from a toe injury, but really my PT started sort of helping me with different parts of my body, and realized like I had this like just like hip impingement of just, and it was kind of like locked, so everything really is connected, and it kind of trickled down there, and so now I really try to focus on that after every session. Hopefully, staying less, injured will help my development. So it's always good. And yeah, so thanks for sharing that journey. I know that could be tough. And I remember my brother tore his ACL in basketball, and like I've never seen him cry before, and that was like one of the few times he's like cried, and it was yeah, I know it could be like knee injury is no joke. So I'm
Yeah.
grateful you were able to get through that, and get off the brace, and like you're saying, focusing on that mentality, and just pushing through it. You know, so yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, you and me both. I'm excited to be
Yeah,
in full health and 100% good and ready to go.
cool, so
Yeah.
good. Um, so switching gears a little bit. So you're a Delaware or Dewey Beach specifically native.
Sort of. So I grew up splitting my time between Bethesda, Maryland, and Dewey Beach, Delaware. So we would spend about a little bit under half the year, about 5 months in Delaware, and then the rest, like the school year, obviously in Maryland.
Okay, got it. Okay, so tell us a little bit about the skim scene. I guess largely in the Delaware area, although I'm curious about Maryland as well, because I haven't. I think I went to Ocean City or something like that, but it was like banned, like skimboarding was banned there or something like that. And then um, I like went to a beach south of that where there were like wild horses or something, and that was pretty good. But yeah, tell us about the skim scene and where you grew up locally, and then like compare that to now you've been traveling around the world to different skim spots. Like how does that compare to other skim scenes?
Yeah. So Dewey Beach, Delaware is the East Coast skimboarding capital. And it really is kind of like the East Coast mecca for skim. It is one of the coolest waves, one of the best waves. When it's good, it's good. You get these beautiful 3, 4 foot barreling liners that will go for blocks at a time. And everything kind of stems from that. So there's a couple of different spots that are local spots that are pretty good and can get that beautiful, beautiful, really fluid liner, and that's pretty cool. But so then like that's the wave, right? Then the skim community aspect of it is really
Mm.
something super beautiful. There's a lot of deep roots in Delaware, skim wise, like the Wilson family, the Vavilas, the Solanos, all these local legends and guys who taught me how to skim, and some people, so like the Wilson family, for example, Harry Wilson started Skim USA years and years ago, and now his grandkids, who are skim campers of mine, are now skimming and falling in love with the sport. So there's a
So
lot of
cool.
deep roots, yeah, and a lot of family love and just a lot of connection in Delaware. So it's really cool. And then comparing that to some
Hmm.
international spots. Mostly everywhere that I've been to, there's been a lot of beautiful community, and skimming is just something that, like, I feel like really emphasizes that because, in its nature, it is individualized. But when you find those friends and those homies who just love it as much as you do, you really find family and community in that. So I would say that a lot of everywhere, whether it's Japan or Mexico or everywhere on the East Coast or the West Coast, there's community and there's love, and if you got a board and you can use it, you're in the family, and that is one of the coolest things ever, quite honestly.
Yeah, so cool. And I know we've touched on this before, but I think it's just worth emphasizing for the audience in this format that yeah, this community really is something special. And um, I'm wondering just in general, like how has that this community enriched your life? Like how's it changed you as a person? Like you're saying, there's different aspects. There's the wave side of it. There's your all the techno aspects of it. But just in general, like how has the community made you who you are today?
In every way possible, I this community has grown to become my second family. Like my friends' moms, and like like the Forcucci's, who are another Delaware family. Like I see Mrs. Forcucci, and I call her Mama Forcucci. Like it is one big family. Like it is no joke. So in every way possible. My closest friends, I've grown up skimming with them. We skim together. We all travel together now because we're all kind of that age. My boyfriend skims. He's well rooted in the skim community, and that's another really cool aspect of it. But even like teaching these little kids and the people that taught me, like from every aspect of your life, whether it's mentors, friends, families, relationships, every aspect of it is in this skim community, and it is the coolest thing. Like it in every aspect has it changed me and helped me grow and taught me a plethora of things.
So cool. Yeah. So it's fair to say you really wouldn't be the person who you are today without skimboarding.
100%. It
Yeah.
is 100%. That sums it up perfectly.
Yeah. So cool. Um, and so going back to your professional skimboarding journey, Are there any specific goals or milestones that you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, yeah. So this year for the 2023 tour, I won the East Coast title for Skim USA, which was a super cool achievement in my first full year as a professional. Because that, grown up seeing people like Casey and Ellen Wood and Helen Holt and Sophia Wynn, win that title. So to be one of the next in line to win it was a super cool accomplishment. Obviously, I want to win that UST title and be a world champion. But I think, in the next year, the closer goals are to win contests. I really would love to win the Zap Pro Am in Dewey. Just to win it home would be super meaningful. Um, so that's on the list, and I think honestly just using my platform as a professional to help grow the sport. Like, yes, I have all these individual goals and want to do these great things, but I want to use it to help grow the sport and let people know what skimming is, and doing stuff like this where you can, even if you just get like one more person involved from skimming, or 10 or 100 or whatever that number may be, just using any chance I get to help the sport grow and introduce it to new people is 100% the goal and what I'm about. So actually, this past weekend, I just got back from California again because we were given the opportunity to do a skimboarding showcase at the Supergirl Pro in Oceanside, California, which is a WSL sanctioned event. So it was actually the first time that skimboarding has ever been featured at a WSL event, and it was a qualifying stop for the women on the surf side. So they got points from that stop to eventually, hopefully, make it into the championship tour. So it was myself, Amber Torrealba, and Jacqueline Coder, along with Sam Victor and Ellen Wood, who emceed for us. But it was by far one of the most enriching experiences of my life. It was a super cool opportunity to, again, like, help the sport grow and introduce it to this whole new world of people, which was super, super cool.
Yeah, that is so cool, and I know I've been talking with some people about linking up with the WSL, and one of my goals is to do everything I can to see if skimboarding can get in the Olympics, and I think that would just be, it's a very lofty, but I think it's an achievable goal within our lifetimes, actually. Just looking at what skateboarding did, and I feel like we are kind of where skateboarding was maybe a couple decades ago. So I think it's totally possible. So, well, I'm curious about that then, and what was kind of some of the interactions between you and the surfers, and what was kind of their reaction to seeing skimboarding maybe for the first time?
Yeah, I quite honestly am still on cloud nine from it all. It was just the most unreal thing. I mean, growing up a skimmer, you have your idols who skim, and those goats in your mind. But then there's those next level people, like those surfers and skateboarders who really are the best in the world at their craft and on that platform where people know them and truly recognize and, respect their sport. Where in skimboarding, I feel like just because we're still a little bit underground, that there's, just not that opportunity yet for us. So the reception was unbelievable. We were welcomed with open arms, and everybody from the event coordinators, the event hosts, to the surfers, to the MCs were overjoyed and just as excited to watch us skim and do our thing as they were for the surfers to compete. So I got to meet people and hang out with some of my favorite surfers, like Tina and Sally Cohen, super good longboarders. I got to meet Sage Erickson, who is just finished fourth on the world tour. I, got to see Alyssa Spencer, who is a up and coming surfer. Got to see her win and talk to her and connect with her, and she watched us skim, and then they did this Olympian versus Olympian thing with Lindsay Jacob Elise and another like Olympic skater, who Brett, I'm blanking, Brett something, and got to meet them and talk to them, and they were, sitting on the beach, hyping us up, supporting us, and that was the most mind-blowing thing to, be skimming and doing our thing and turn around and see everybody on the beach and, the cameras and the TV and the drone and the photographers and the videographers, and then all these little girls like can come and support us and hype us up was unreal. So the reception to us being there was, we were welcomed with open arms and given all the support and accommodations in the world. Anything that we needed, we got, and it was ridiculous. It was insane.
Wow, that sounds like such a like one of those experiences that you'll never forget. And it's so cool that you were part of that. And I'm definitely gonna like look at look at the articles and any videos that come from that. It's so cool. But there's so much that I want to talk about from that. So
Yeah.
one thing is, what do you think that skimboarding can learn from surfing in general? So in terms of growth as a sport, organization, getting that sort of international unity that's needed to go to the next level.
Yeah, I think there's quite a bit to be learned, honestly, I would say. From an organizational standpoint, I think that just like you said, getting that unity and formality across all platforms. So things that we are working on currently, but just being the same across every level, every contest, every stop on every tour, whether it be the European tour, the UST tour, the Skim USA tour, some Eastern, like some Asian tours and like stops in the Philippines and Japan and stuff like that, for it to be uniform across everywhere, just so everybody has the same expectations and rules and understanding would be huge for us, much like the WSL does, where, every stop is the same, different points and different sponsors, but everybody knows it's the same thing, right? It's your top two waves, you get whatever time is allotted, whether it's a semifinal, quarterfinal, or final, and everything's the same. Expectations are the same everywhere. I think that is a huge takeaway that we are learning slowly but surely, but could definitely help us. I think another thing would be just the approach that they take. And granted, they have a larger platform to work from, but they go after those big name sponsors like Monster, like Red Bull, like Nissan was the lead sponsor for this event. I mean, just it's honestly any company. I feel like a lot of them are very excited to get into new things and to have another platform to get, advertising from. So I think doing things like that would also be pretty helpful and are somewhat attainable.
So cool. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things we can learn there. And I'm also curious too. You mentioned just being on the beach there and just turning around and seeing all the action, seeing all the cameras, seeing all these different aspects. But one of them I'm interested is just like looking, the little girl's eyes that are looking up at yours, and I'm kind of like seeing yourself, but when you were little, and how you talk about idolizing your heroes, which are now friends, and I'm wondering how that's shaped you as a person, and now that you're kind of an instructor, maybe an idol, inspiring other Groms coming up, does that change you? Do you carry yourself differently? Do you feel like you have more of a responsibility to, act or do things or perform certain ways?
100%.
Hmm.
I, yeah, actually, it is, it's interesting. So from that little girl, looking up at these powerhouses and, forces to be reckoned with, you want to be like them. You want to emulate them. You want to skim just like them and act just like them and do everything they do because you want to be at that spot that they're at. And you want to just, just be who they are because they're these great people. And now being in a more leadership role, yeah, you have to remember that everything you do, there's always someone watching, just in the world of skimboarding, because there's always, some new company in the mix or a new person in the mix, just someone's always watching what you're doing. So definitely making sure that you're representing correctly and acting in a sportsmanship like way is definitely very important. Now, like seeing that there's these campers and all these little kids that we're all constantly around now, like, yeah, you gotta not only act a certain way, but you have to show them the way to act, right? Like, you don't do well, you don't do the way you wanted to in a heat, which is a very real thing, and you don't get the result you wanted, or you don't skim the way you wanted to. You gotta put on your best face and smile and keep going like nothing's happening. And I learned that lesson at a young age, and it is one that I will never forget and always teach every camper that I have is, contests are great and they're for fun. And, when the stakes are higher and it's serious, yeah, it's different. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change who you are as a person. You're a good person, and you do this because you love it. You do this because you want to, right? You have an option to sign up or not. And it doesn't matter how you do, you have to, be there, and whether you're sponsored or not, you have to represent where you're from and your community just as equally as you would a sponsor. So, reinforcing that of like, whether you win or you lose a heat, you have to smile and show sportsmanship, and whether you give them a high five or a hug, it doesn't really matter, but you show sportsmanship. And that is another big thing that we really emphasize at Alley Oop is just showing these kids like how to act no matter what, because that's what I was taught and had to learn the hard way, quite honestly. So it's something that I definitely focus on in just ensuring that these kids do is they act correctly.
I'm curious I want to dive a little deeper into that. Like, tell us about, you said you had to learn the hard way. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, so I got sponsored at a super young age. Alley Oop was my first sponsor, and I was under 10. And I was also under 10 when I got put on the flow team for ZAP, and in 2013. And then in 2015, I got put on the A team as an amateur, and I was 11, 12. So even at a young age, representing these, huge brands in the sport, in the community that are known for having just really great down to earth people. And at that age, like it got, somewhat serious being that young and being sponsored. And I think I lost a heat or just didn't win and wasn't happy with it, and came out of that heat like this mean little girl who didn't want to talk to anybody or look at anyone, and just wanted to go probably walk off the beach and cry. And I wasn't happy. And my parents pulled me aside and were like, in less friendly words, and were like, pull it together. This isn't about you anymore. Like, you're representing these companies, and they picked you because they see something in you and they know you as a person, and this isn't you. So pull it together, turn it around, and walk back on that beach like nothing's happened. And, do what you got to do when people don't see you. So now, I try to. It's a little bit different now because there's always little kids around, and whatever, after a heat, doesn't matter how you do. But I always try to go past the practice area, outside of the contest area, and go for a swim after a heat, and sometimes even like just go underwater, hold my breath for a little bit, and kind of just let it all sit, whether I won the heat or lost the heat, and deal with that away from everybody, where kind of no one can see, and I can really, whether I'm mad or happy or whatever it may be, just kind of let that happen.
Wow, so cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think it's really important for people to know that kind of story, and know that, it's okay to have those feelings, but just understand that, when you get to a certain level, and I would say it's not even maybe at a certain level, it's almost all the time, like you're saying, because you're representing your family and you're representing your community as well, to carry yourself with that knowledge, and make sure you're representing well. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
so cool. Um, so, looking forward, how do you see the future of skimboarding evolving, both in terms of competition and the community?
I see a very bright future. I am a realist, but in this context, I'm very optimistic. I also would love to see skimboarding get into the Olympics and think that it is a very attainable goal, because like you said, I also agree and think that we are in a spot where surfing was and where skateboarding was X amount of years ago. However, I think that we're moving at a faster pace than they were. I think our growth is on a very exponential trend and very upwards. And I think that we can, if we move in now, because I think the sport in general is at this very volatile point where we can turn and we can go in so many different directions and do so many things, that if we take it the right way, we're going to get there, and we're going to get into the X Games and recognized by the ISA and eventually, yeah, into the Olympics. So I do see that those huge things happening. I think next on the docket is to be recognized by the ISA, because skimboarding is still not. So I know for Skim USA, at least, that is the goal for the next 24 months, or I would say even 18 at this point. So
Wow, so cool. Um, yeah, and I'm glad you sort of share that sentiment about getting the Olympics, and it looks like you guys have actual concrete goals, and I would just encourage not even unless you're already doing this, but taking those conversations outside of Skim USA, making sure that David's involved, like UST's involved, things of that nature, and even some of the Euro guys as well, Asia. I mean, the more people we have at the table, just the better, in my opinion. Of course, you want to get your house in order first, but at the same time, like, let's just make sure that we're extending those conversations where we can. But yeah, thanks for that insight. Um,
yeah.
so, what's on the horizon for Sydney Pizza in the coming year? Any sort of big plans, or you mentioned your platform? Any goals you want to share with the listeners?
Yeah. On the horizon. So as we're wrapping up 2023, we're now officially in the off season. So I will be taking a break and really focusing on that training and just stepping out of the pressure of competing a little bit, just as we're in the off season. But I will continue to be working and helping out with Skim USA and UST and all those lovely things where help is needed. I would love to lend a hand. And then moving into the end of the year, I will be spending about 5 weeks down in Malacca, Mexico, getting ready, training, because that apparently never stops. Training and learning that wave and getting better at those big wave wraps and, those amazing feelings of being in the barrel and long driving liners and all these beautiful things. So I'll be training down there. And then contest season magically starts up again in January, so just getting back into that. And then Skim Camp will be in full force with Alley Oop this year. I think we're going to add a couple of things, so please be on the lookout for that. And just a very full and eventful summer. I'll be graduating from university in May, and from there traveling and skimming and just trying to make that work. I will be spending some more time out in California with Amber Torrealba and starting to work on some things out there, so please keep an eye out for that as well. And actually, there's another Supergirl Pro event in November, so we're also working on getting skimboarding into that event as well. So if that's something that people would like to see, please reach out and let's make that happen as well.
Awesome. That's so cool. Like, it sounds like you have a lot going for yourself and for the community as well. So definitely grateful to have you, and thanks so much for having this conversation. Do you have just like to wrap things up? Do you have any other messages or words of encouragement you would like to leave with the skimboarding community and your fans?
Yeah, actually, don't ever be afraid to try something new or to just go out there and skim, whether it's, if you're a little girl, whether it's with the boys or on your own with people you don't know, it doesn't matter. Just go grab a board and skim. And never be afraid to reach out. I try my hardest and do my very best to respond to every message and comment and whatever may have you, because I definitely remember being that little girl reaching out like, oh, there's no way they're going to respond, and then they do, and it makes your whole day. So I definitely remember that feeling. And I try my very hardest to respond and everything like that. But yeah, and a big thing is like, the last little note is like, feelings and anxiety are very real, and nobody talks about it. It's still a very taboo point, and it's very real. I can promise you that I deal with it. I can promise you that a lot of other pro women deal with it, and some of the pro men do as well. And speak up about it. Don't be afraid to, talk to somebody about it. I'm nervous before my heat. I'm nervous in my heat. We're allowed coaches now. Like, ask for help. Reach out, talk to somebody, and don't. It's a real thing, and we all deal with it more than you realize. So, don't be afraid.
So cool. Well, yeah, thanks so much, Sydney. Again, I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast. Thank you for, your words of encouragement. Thank you, too, for even just being so open within this community. I know, myself not being like professional like yourself, competing in a few events, getting worked, and, you'll see me out there in the future at some point once I feel like I'm ready. There's a few things I want to work on and skills, but, working on the back end, like yourself, trying to push the sport forward is really what my more immediate goal is. Doing what I can for the community, and thank you so much for doing what you're doing for the community. I'll never forget that time, I think, after Jackalope, and I think it was just, we were just, I think everyone was like meeting up afterwards or something, and you were like, welcome, like you're part of the family, you're part of us now. And it just like, it made me feel very good and very welcoming, and it's these kinds of feelings and sentiments from people like yourself that I think we need more of, especially to keep the sport growing. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure, real joy talking, and getting to share some things. And yeah, of course. Like I said, once you got aboard and you're in it, whether you want to be or not, you're in the family. So.
Awesome, that's so cool. So
Yeah.
just where can the people find you? Any plugs you want to leave? Any shout outs as well?
Yeah, Instagram at Skim Sid. That's the biggest plug I got. That's my main platform at the moment. Is Instagram. I do a lot of things on there. Announce a lot of things. Post a lot of things. You can reach me. I have my link trees in my bio. You can email me, text me, whatever you want to do. Yeah, and yeah, just thank you to all my sponsors. Wouldn't be here without Zap and Alley-Oop and Eel Snot and Marlaroo bags. Just great people and great support, and to my family as well. I definitely wouldn't be here without them. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Sydney Pete's everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Yeah.